Spates here with your Real America's Voice Newsbreak. Liberty University's 2025 CEO Summit is underway as we speak. Rav's Washington correspondent Britt McHenry and Dave Brat are there right now covering it for us. Good morning to both of you guys. Britt, I have to admit I was eavesdropping on you a little bit, and it appears you've confirmed your heritage while attending this summit.
Yes, as we know, America first, but with Edward Poots, the Speaker of the Northern Ireland House, he said that McHenry is actually Northern Irish, which is great because we haven't really known in my family throughout the lineage. But no, really have had some rock star speakers here. There's a big focus on women today, a lot of panelists as well. What else should we be aware of?
First Lady of Virginia is with the 150 women CEOs across the street. We just had Tennille Walea come in. She's been a long-time attendee, runs Microsoft Artificial Intelligence, DoD Artificial Intelligence. Today, our keynotes, we have Brian Wesbury standing right over here. He's got one of the biggest financial newsletters in the country. Tonight, we also have Pat Gelsinger, one of the biggest names out in Silicon Valley. He started a new faith group out there, huge and growing in Silicon Valley. People aren't aware of that. And then tonight we also have Doug DeVos. He's the chairman of Amway, Grand Rapids, Michigan. And he'll be with us tomorrow, 15,000 live students worshiping together. And Doug DeVos will be the keynote at the convocation.
And EPA Administrator Zeldin has been a hit. Everybody's been talking about his remarks last night. What can you say about the keynote speakers who were heavy hitters last night?
Lee Zeldin hit it out of the park. Everyone said, I couldn't believe how great that was. And then General Flynn went off like a Baptist preacher. He says, I was raised Catholic and I'm Catholic. I said, man, you sound like a Baptist last night. He was ranting and doing great. And then Liz Truss kind of, for me, she's my favorite. She's the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and she hit it out of the park as well.
She was very impressive. So, Terrence, the rock stars keep coming. It's been a really successful summit so far.
Yep, thanks to RAV.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for your reporting. Sounds like lots of fun. And, of course, we'll have continued coverage here on Real America's Voice.
Gad Saad.
Waking up the woke.
Well, you should get over that quickly.
One brainwashed radical at a time.
That's enough.
It's the Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Andrew Kolvet here, executive producer of the show, joined with Jack Posobiec, who's helping me out today since Blake is on the road. Thank you very much for that.
Andrew needed a lot of paper towels after he spilled his Keurig coffee all over himself.
I was lucky it didn't get on the computer. That would have been bad.
Well, you kind of left your phone, but then I had to go and save your phone, so.
Well, I appreciate that. The drama unfolds continually here behind the scenes at the Charlie Kirk Show.
Indeed.
You had a question for Dr. Saad.
Dr. Saad, so, we've identified this. It's spreading. You've talked about it as if it's a parasite, which continues. But we're also talking about antivenom. We're also talking about potential cures. Is there a way to reach people who, and again, perhaps not so that are some that are so far gone that they would, pull the trigger themselves. But we also saw in the wake of Charlie's murder, thousands upon thousands of people taking to social media, celebrating, clapping, cheering this on. And these were not card-carrying members of Antifa. These were people in positions of authority. You had pilots, you had doctors, nurses, HR departments, all over the place where people seem to share in this belief. Is there any way to kind of break them out of this?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one that I struggle with often when I'm trying to decide whether to engage someone in terms of whether I could flip them, if I could administer the mind vaccine to them or not. And it's not always obvious that your time is not going to be wasted on some people. But I do think, and maybe here I'm being naively optimistic, I do think that with enough showing of the evidence, people can come around. But it takes a lot of dogged effort. So, for example, I had a person who in 2010 I had a very, very difficult email exchange with, Well, it took her 14 years, but then last year she came around and said, oh boy, I wish I could have listened to you back in 2010. She was one of those super progressive liberal Jews who was very upset that I was saying some detrimental things about Islam because her friend is a Muslim woman and she's very peaceful and kind and empathetic. And I was, not adding to the ecosystem of love by spreading hateful things about Islam and so on. Well, 14 years later, she said, oops, I guess I was wrong. So I'd like to think that with enough evidence, people can potentially be reached. But here's where I'm going to hit you with the counterpoint that's slightly more pessimistic. I was recently asked on a show by a British psychiatrist, what is the singular thing that has most surprised me about human nature in all the years that I've studied human behavior? And I don't think you're going to be happy to hear this. I said, the difficulty to get someone to change their opinions once they are fully anchored. So it takes a Herculean effort, but hopefully we're all up for the challenge.
Well, that's exactly why we were devoting so much, and we are devoting so much of our energies, Dr. Saad, to ensuring that these high school chapters get off the ground. I will never forget, we were in Aspen a couple weeks before we were having a retreat for donors of Turning Point USA, and Charlie was working on the presentation the night before he was going to present it to everybody. And his vision was very clear. He wanted a Club America chapter in every high school in the country. And, getting to students before they get completely ideologically brainwashed at the university, universities where Dr. Saad is not a professor, of course, is critical. Obviously, the university chapters are critical as well. But you do see this. It's very interesting. I'm learning something with this clip, right? Because this gentleman from Midas Touch, his name's Adam, I guess. He is clipping it for his audience, and his audience loves it because I refuse to disavow the New York Republicans, young Republicans.
Well, they also talked over you.
I didn't get a chance. I basically said, listen, I'm willing to have a conversation about it, but until you tell me that you're willing to disavow the John, I just blanked.
Jay Jones.
Jay Jones, gosh. Jay Jones, two J's. Jay Jones, Attorney General candidate, Democrat in the state of Virginia.
John James in Michigan,
exactly,
who we like.
Jay Jones. So until you're willing to actually tell him he needs to drop out of the race, then listen, we're gonna be at an impasse here. I'm willing to have a conversation about some of the things that were said. I don't agree with some of the things that were said. I don't understand the context of them. But this is what's funny. We are in this hyper-polarized environment because I have never gotten so many compliments from people about my performance last night saying, based, way to go, way not to, they were proud of me for not doing the disavow ritual on stage with Chris Cuomo and this Midas Touch kid, because that's what he wanted. He wanted this clip to be able to put it on social media. There was no civil dialogue. There was none of this. And it does raise an interesting point about, social media. I'm being told by authorities a lot of this stuff happens on gamer chats, right? This is a lot of this radicalization fully anchoring into these ideas is happening on these Discord chats and things like this. So what is the solution when it comes to the fact that we are just living in completely different algorithms, where we seem to be getting further apart because of the machines?
Yeah, well, I mean, I try to do my part in terms of reaching the young people at the university level. But I think what made, to your original question about Charlie's legacy, the fact that he's able to reach, I mean, nobody wants to listen to, a 61-year-old professor with gray hair, but kids want to listen to Charlie, right? Because he seems only slightly older than him. And his brilliance is actually, I mean, it really needs to be highlighted. Let me draw an analogy. When I teach consumer psychology and I explain to the students that we can't sell chewing gum to 10-year-olds because they don't yet have the cognitive apparatus to fight against the advertising message that's thrown at them. So that's why all the ideologues try to get to your children early, right? That's why we have, twerking drag queens during reading hour when they're 5 and 6 years old, because the ideologues understand that we need to get to the children very early before they have developed the cognitive armory to protect themselves against the nonsense. And so I did my part at the university level, God willing, you guys will be doing it at an earlier age bracket, and hopefully we can administer the mind vaccine globally.
Well, and that's a great place to kind of pivot a little bit. I want to talk about this AOC Bernie Sanders town hall, Dr. Saad. You know, they were talking about social media, so let's play this clip, 248.
Why does Republican messaging on social media seem so much more effective than Democratic messaging, and what can we do about it?
Well, that's a great question. I think the Republicans are effective. They have learned a lot about social media. And by the way, it doesn't hurt that their friends own all of the major social media platforms.
Oh, that's factually inaccurate. But, you know, there is this thought that I've been having, Dr. Saad, is that this reaction, that they're resorting to violence. There is this thought that keeps occurring to me, you know, and I said this last night at the town hall, you just need better ideas. I mean, part of the reason that the left is losing the social media battle is because their ideas do not hold up to scrutiny. And once they are allowed to be scrutinized in an equal setting, equal footing, they tend to fall apart. Ours go viral because they're common sense.
Yeah, can I just say something about X and Elon, which, by the way, the only one, right? We have like X and I guess like a little bit of CBS right now, maybe, I don't know,
yeah.
You know, and Elon didn't come in and start boosting conservatives, though. What he did is he came in and he stopped banning conservatives. He stopped censoring conservatives, and he instituted one-tier standard for everyone. And then he also instituted community notes and all the rest. And that, for some reason to them, made them so upset that they all started running over to Blue Sky. It wasn't a boost of engagement that Bernie Sanders is saying. It was actually leveling the playing field to an equal standard.
Indeed. And maybe I'll add a point. So it is true, of course, that in the battle of ideas, the conservative ideas, of course, we would all agree are much better than the progressive ones. But I want to introduce a slight cosmetic point that speaks to sort of the virality on social media. In my happiness book, the book after the parasitic mind, I talk about the research, not my own research, but there's unequivocal research that shows that on average, conservatives score much higher on happiness than do progressives and liberals. And the research is unequivocal. So that if you look at, and the reason, by the way, if I can just explain it very quickly, the conservative, I argue, wakes up in the morning. He may not live in a perfect society, but there are things worth conserving if you are a conservative, by the definition of that term. The progressive wakes up with unbelievable existential angst. I live in a supremacist society, white supremacy, transphobic, Islamophobic, built on slavery. Therefore, I need to eradicate the current society, and around the corner, there'll be unicornia. So I'm sullen, I'm dour, I'm angry. Look at Bernie Sanders. I mean, he is more scary looking than, the Black Mamba. Whereas you look at you guys, you look at all of the beautiful women on Fox, they look happy. They are easy on the eyes. And so I think that certainly is an additional element beyond just the quality of the ideas that makes people more drawn to some of the leading conservative figures.
I think that's a really smart point. I've never actually thought about it that way, Dr. Saad. We live in a state of gratitude and of a sense of, I would say, obligation of duty to conserve the good, the true, and the beautiful, things we're grateful for, things we have joy knowing that they exist. The progressive mind lives in a state of existential dread because they believe the world is not good, true, or beautiful right now, and they want to make it that way. And so they're willing to tear down all the edifices they see as in between them and their utopia that is simply never going to exist on planet Earth. And that dichotomy is why you liberals tend to wear their dread on their face, whereas conservatives tend to be happy. We tend to be jovial. And it was funny because
isn't that also kind of like it's like self-effacing, right?
Yes.
It's like you hate yourself, so you look worse, and then
Yes.
like, you know what I mean?
But it's funny because sometimes I would notice on social media in the wake of this tragedy, Dr. Saad, that some people would say, "Oh, you guys aren't mourning enough," and it's like, okay, first of all, like, that's not true. If you could just see us in private. But secondly, we do not mourn the way the world mourns. I have faith that Charlie is staring Jesus in the face, and that's our Christian faith. And I believe that he's wearing a crown of glory, and he's a martyr for the faith and for the country. I believe that God has a plan. I trust God's plan. I don't understand God's plan. I don't have to like God's plan all the time, at least in my flesh, but I trust it. And there is a sense of higher purpose at play that I am willing to, park my emotions and my flesh at the door and trust the Lord. I want to keep going with you, Dr. Saad, in the breaks. This is just so fun. Thank you so much. We're going to keep going with Dr. Gad Saad and Jack Posobiec. 1 second.